Hello.
Hello.
My name is Jacob. This is my dad, Roger,
Hello.
and I'm asking a few questions.
Okay.
Could you tell us your position and what you do?
I am a general manager for a malt beverage distributorship in Colorado.
Good. All right. Does your job require different types of communication? If so, what types do you use?
It requires quite a bit of different communication skills. You got laborers, you got professional, you got secretaries, you got males, females. Basically, I find just be truthful all the time, and good listening skills will get you a long ways. But it is very difficult in this profession.
What kinds of people or businesses do you communicate with?
I deal with retail outlet stores that carry liquor licenses that we have to deal with, that they own their business. They have their own way of doing business, as do we, but at the same time, you've got to learn what drives them, what helps drive us, and help them out. Our goal is for the retailer to grow as well as us.
You deal with many different types of people. How do you adjust your communication between them all? For example, a brewery representative or an angry customer. Would you like me to repeat that?
Tough question. Brewery representative, they're going to be firm with me, so I'm going to be firm and honest with them, no matter what is going on with our conversation or meeting. We've got many different things that we have to abide by with our contract with Anheuser-Busch, meaning one of our suppliers, and we got to abide by that. Also, they've got to open up on their end to listen to what we have to say, because they feel this is good for Denver, it's not necessarily good for us here in Glenwood Springs. So you have to have open communication all the time and good listening skills to make things happen well and have a good relationship.
What about, have you ever had an experience with an angry customer with communication between them?
Just about, probably two per month. Many times it is self-inflicted by the retailer. Necessarily, give you an example, a retail account bounces a check to us that they owe us money for a product that we delivered or sold them. They blame it on us when we're not the ones that wrote the check or wrote the order necessarily, but it's all our fault. We've got policies and procedures in regard to a situation like that, but it always falls back on us because they feel that we have more money than they do, yada yada yada. But at the same time, for the most part, those are our angry retail account issues that we deal with. Or we could make a mistake on a delivery, or we could make a mistake on communication. I heard this, they told me this. That's back to good listening skills, in which a lot of times if you repeat what you're talking about, you're reminded of everything that needs to take place, and you normally don't have those kind of discussions.
My next question is kind of like that. How important are listening skills at your job?
Very important. I found through the years that after a conversation and or meeting, I always take notes, regardless what's going on, whether we're setting up an event, setting up a new account, all the details in line, making sure that the licenses are in order, all the small little things that can kind of throw you for a loop. If you don't have good listening skills and you fill out an application halfway, not 100%, whatever, but you go and ride with it. But then all of a sudden, let's say we have the wrong number for a bank account where we're pulling money, that we're not listening and or paying attention. All of a sudden they bounce a check and it's on our fault. It's our fault at that point rather than vice versa. So listening skills are very important, especially when it comes to employees. You've got to listen to what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, they always want to buck the system or our policies, and they try and take advantage. You got to sit down with them face to face, look at them, and just say, hey, this isn't our policy. You knew that coming in. But there are ways we can get around it or help them out, especially in family situations.
Is writing an important part of your job?
Always.
If so, could you explain how?
Well, our business has gone from paper, keeping tabs, good information in regards to a retail account, for instance. And it's gone from paper to electronics to everything else. Thank goodness a computer has correct spell, same way with texting, because as a professional, you need to come across as professional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I just sent off a text to my direct line to Anheuser-Busch, just text him off something that doesn't make any sense or is poorly written, it reflects on me and our business.
Do you feel that good writing and verbal communication is important when someone is applying for a job with your company?
I think it's very important. There's different levels. There's different levels in which I hire for different positions. A salesman being more professional than necessarily a driver, but I always look at their history. If they can write on their application or if their resume comes across clean and well written, that goes a long way for me. If it's misspelled all the time, that's the first thing I look at. Is their spelling on an application and what their education level is, whether they do have a high school diploma at least, even if it's a GED, that's important to me. But at the same time, that does reflect a little bit on choosing and filling that position.
Okay. What do good or poor communication skills tell you about someone?
Good or poor?
Good or poor communication skills tell you about someone?
Tells me how they communicate with other people, which will come back and say, how are they going to work together with somebody else on a project and or job or anything else. Their communication skills, to me, goes a long way, because if they can communicate with a fellow employee very well about anything, it's going to be good and relaxed work throughout the day, and it should be productive. Whereas if somebody's kind of tense in a labor situation, delivering beer, for instance, this guy's going to do all the work and possibly direct this other guy. This guy doesn't say a word. There might be some personality conflicts. If somebody's open enough to talk about anything or even the job and what the processes are, it's just better communication overall, because both of them can learn from each other.
And where you don't have any problems.
Right.
How do or could you handle poor listening skills with a coworker?
How do I handle it?
How do or could you handle poor listening skills with a coworker?
What I normally do is, if I have a confrontation, for instance, I will confront that employee and I will say, okay, this is how you should have handled that, and explain step-by-step instructions on how to handle it and maybe handle it better. And at the end of that conversation, I will let that employee interject with me, and then I will also have him repeat back to me what we discussed, so it's fresh in his mind, and So I know that he clearly understands what's going on.
Okay. What is your best advice for someone who needs to improve their communication skills?
If I see an employee struggling or a fellow employer struggling with communication skills, I will either just go grab them on a kind of impromptu situation. They're free at the office, and I'll spend 5 minutes with them, and I will chat with them about the situation. If it's a immediate need, but there's lots of times I review each employee at least twice a year. And it's not about wages or anything else. It's about growth in the company. It's about their attitude towards their job and how they're performing overall. It's not about wages or anything else, because I believe in giving wages to those who earn them. But that's how I handle it. And I try and ask more open questions rather than direct questions. That's like saying, Jacob, you need to do this. That's a direct question. Whereas, Jacob, how would you handle it? Let them learn and let them communicate and talk. Because if they don't talk and they just sit there, it's kind of difficult. It's pretty difficult.
Okay. I only have a couple more questions for you today. How have your communication skills helped you get to where you are today?
I'd have to start with my listening skills.
That's the next question.
No, seriously, early on in this business, in this industry, I was not one to have a knee-jerk reaction. I always listened to everything, and during the discussions and or new format or process that we're developing, I would listen through it first, and I wouldn't say, okay, let's just do it, a knee-jerk reaction. I always thought through it, and if I had any questions, I would ask to clarify, and that helped my listening, and I would formulate everything that could be affected with a reorganization or whatever. And I think my listening skills have helped me communicate better with anything that I do.
How did you develop good listening skills, like younger in your life, or?
I'd have to say that came from my upbringing. I came from a family of 11 kids. We were born and raised on a farm and ranch. Everybody had chores to do, and you had to have a lot of respect. Whether you think my garbage guy is better than me and treating him differently, I listen to everybody. You have to understand what in their shoes, basically. I don't care if he's low man on the totem pole in my operation. If I don't listen to him, I'm not going to improve our whole group of people. You're only as good as your worst employee. So you have to build them up and listen to them, because you never know what's going on in their lives. A bad marriage, a death in the family, health issues. So that's how you bring across that. And once somebody brings up a situation you didn't know of and you're listening, you can understand why that person was acting quiet or differently than anybody else. Just respect, basically respect.
What has most helped you develop your writing skills?
Reading. The more I read, the better my writing skills are. In everything I do, there's industry news that comes across emails each and every day. A lot of times people will just read the headline and make a conclusion instead of reading it. I like to read everything so I know what's going on in the industry, whether it pertains to me or not. I can learn from it, for one thing, but reading helps you understand, clarify, and move forward.
This is my last question for you today. What has most helped you develop your verbal communication skills?
Same thing, reading. There's different levels of communication when you're talking to people. You obviously know what kind of person is in front of you, but also it's just reading. And no matter what you're doing or communicating to somebody, you can communicate to anybody. But overall, reading and just talking each and every day like you and I are right now. But if you sit in the corner and just listen and never say a word, you'll never develop those. I think public speaking in college was one of the best and fun classes I've ever taken. Great experience. We had to take it out live in college, but the public speaking course helped me out.
Well, that's all I have for you today.
Thank you. You're welcome.